Hunter x Hunter is dead-ish, dead-ish, which means that it's also alive-ish. Alive-ish. I suppose it's time that we have a very serious discussion. Hello and welcome to the New World Review, your source for everything anime and manga. My name is Liam and happy new year, New Worldian people. What I'd love to tell you is that we have a very exciting content-packed year planned ahead, but that wouldn't be, well, that wouldn't be entirely the truth, would it? It's time to have a frank, honest, and perhaps even painful discussion regarding our beloved Hunter x Hunter, a series that despite its complete and utter absence from the world, still manages to capture hundreds of thousands of views on this channel. It is both shocking and humbling to be part of this life support fan base. And while I don't plan on stopping with Hunter x Hunter anytime soon, we have a bit of a big problem. Because it has now been over 3 years since the last chapter of Hunter x Hunter was published, making this by far the longest hiatus that the fan base has ever endured. And whilst I do enjoy the idea of, it always being darkest before dawn and all that kind of stuff, it is hard to deny this feeling of bleak abandonment. So we're going to distract ourselves with a quick round of Togashi Gone, a very simple minigame, the rules of which are as follows. Yoshihiro Togashi is hiding behind one of these 3 Gones, and it's going to be your job to guess which is the one where Togashi himself has gone. Now, should you guess incorrectly, then your punishment will be to subscribe to the New World Review, thus resulting in consistent injections of Hunter-based culture being administered directly into your YouTube feed. And if you are correct, then you can pat yourself on the back and I don't know, have a wank. I don't care what you do. Pick an activity of your choosing if you're correct. So where is Togashi? Choose your Gon now, and we shall reveal the answer in 3, 2, 1, and bam! It was none of them. Because in this case, Togashi is truly gone. So if you guessed incorrectly, and that should be most of you, except for a couple of smartasses, then you know the thing to do, and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the association. Welcome. So, what's the situation? Well, as I said, we are now in the beginning of our 4th hiatus year. And for some fun numbers there, in 2021, Hunter x Hunter celebrated. Celebrated is probably not the right word, but Hunter x Hunter celebrated having exactly 1,000 days without having published a chapter. And for some context, conversely, in 2021, One Piece celebrated publishing 1,000 chapters, as well as 100 manga volumes and 1,000 anime episodes. And remembering that Hunter x Hunter is only a year younger than One Piece, this was definitely quite the bittersweet occasion. Oh, and here's a bonus fun fact. This channel, the New World Review, started covering Hunter x Hunter in June 2019. Meanwhile, the last published chapter of Hunter x Hunter was released on November 26, 2018. So weirdly enough, New World Review has never been making content at the same time that any Hunter x Hunter media has been published. So this channel is, I suppose, acting as a true gap filler, pumping your veins full of delicious Hunter proteins until the hopeful return of our Lord and Savior. Speaking of, let's have our annual Togashi update. Where has this man been since November 2018? That was an unintentional rhyme, but the answer is, surprisingly, nowhere. Other than Hunter x Hunter, the last recorded work we have of Togashi was his collaboration on Akuten Wars, which is fascinating because Togashi wrote the story whilst it was illustrated by Hachi Mizuno. And I go to the trouble to point that out because it almost feels like a test run for continuing Hunter x Hunter. We'll get into this in a bit, but there is a huge call for Hunter x Hunter to proceed with a new artist handling the illustrations, whilst Togashi provides the raw story elements. So it is interesting that we do have an example of such collaboration, even if it hasn't amounted to anything as of yet. Although in fact, maybe that's the reason why we haven't heard anything yet. Perhaps Togashi hated this experience and has doubled down on his philosophy. As for a physical sighting though, Togashi was spotted in August 2018, attending a Kerekizaka 46 concert, which is one of those mega idol groups that I think has a different name now, but think something along the lines of AKB48, but it's just probably not as good. Not that I know what's good, I don't follow idol groups. Interesting that Togashi is an idol fan, interesting, not surprising, he fits the stereotype quite well. About a year later, in April 2019, Togashi made a recorded public appearance at a restaurant named Fromatic, which we know because he drew them a shikishi featuring Gon. A very well drawn Gon, I might add, which is notable because his medical issues make drawing even simple art quite difficult. Oh, and he was also there with his wife, Naoko Takeuchi, who also drew a Sailor Moon shikishi as she is the author of Sailor Moon. So I'd be pretty damn pleased if I were that restaurant, having 2 heavy hitters of the manga world enjoy your food so much that they turn your walls into manga history. Next, Togashi was seen in September 2019 attending the Yu Yu Hakusho stage play, and at the show a fan asked them to sign their ticket, to which Togashi generously obliged. However, this is where I guess I get a bit concerned, because unlike the flawless image of Gon at the restaurant, Yusuke here looks like he's been quite a difficult task to pump out. And I don't want to go too deeply into this because, I don't know, maybe Togashi just had to draw him on a very uneven surface or something like that, but it's still a bit of an artistic shock to go from Gon to Yusuke, and I think this is definitely an indicator of the aforementioned medical issues. And then in December 2019, we received the sort of news that we have been waiting for, although it was not good news. On Twitter, someone posted their interaction with an editor from Shueisha, to whom they directly asked about the status of Hunter x Hunter, and this tweet read as such: "My colleagues just casually asked about how he was doing when the editors from Shueisha came, and if there were any plans on bringing back Hunter x Hunter anytime soon. They said that he is still suffering from back pain, so no further plans just yet." That was December 2019, and to the best of my knowledge, we've neither seen nor heard anything at all since. To be fair, if there were a set of years to be missing from the world, 2020 and 2021 are most understandable. Tagashi was rarely seen in public when the world was still functional, so it's not surprising that he's been completely MIA over the past 2 years. And of course, Shueisha themselves have kept very tight-lipped about everything. On this matter though, there is an interview from Togashi discussing the future of Hunter x Hunter pre-hiatus, which I think is important to highlight here because he said, "They let me do what I want. The series I'm working on right now might be a huge problem from a different point of view than mine, but I'm really enjoying it. I think there are two types of readers: those who don't care if I draw my stories or not, and those who want to read a manga written and illustrated directly by me. I still don't know how to balance this problem to satisfy the majority of my readers. Generally, I think it's okay to leave the illustrations to someone else," which I personally find quite hopeful, because obviously the ideal scenario would be for Togashi to be magically healed by Nanika and just continue on his own, but given that this is unfortunately reality, I would be incredibly keen to find the right artist to bring Togashi's story to life. And Togashi, while he does seem to land on that side of the matter, was evidently worried about what fans would think. Would they accept a Hunter x Hunter without his hand guiding the visuals? Well, we can gauge this because I conducted a poll on NewWorldReview, and the overwhelming majority of people said that they would be happy for Hunter x Hunter to return with a new artist maintaining Togashi as the writer. And usually I try to keep polls open for a lot longer than, an hour, but the avalanche of responses here made it clear that the overall percentage was not going to change radically. Because whether it's 96, 95, or even gasp 94%, that is still a very decisive result, with some of the comments including, "Togashi could literally just release a dialogue outline for the rest of the series with the panels being described in lengthy paragraphs and I would be more than happy." Personally, I think I did probably want a bit more than that, but I getcha. As long as it's Togashi writing the story, I'll be happy. But we also have the very important counterpoint which does exist, and that is, I disagree. Art is part of his storytelling. And I do begrudgingly agree with this to some extent. Writing manga is not like writing a screenplay or even a play. It's not done with the thought that you're gonna hand this work over to someone else for them to ultimately bring it to life. The manga process evolves in tandem. Dialogue is written whilst pages are constructed, and they inform each other in a very organic process. So we would certainly lose something if Togashi were to hand over the illustration process. Things might feel a bit disconnected because Togashi's vision may not match that of the new artist. However, we also stand to gain quite a bit, because so long as we have a trusted, talented artist, they could even potentially add a new dimension to Hunter x Hunter that could enhance the series. So something like this is always quite high risk, high reward. And yes, there's always the question of authenticity and then the desire for such stuff, because is it really still Hunter x Hunter if it's not 100% Togashi? And look, we could ramble on about that for all eternity because it's a very philosophical question. What I do find interesting though is Togashi's author comment for the final chapter currently released, because he said that he had completed storyboards for a further 10 chapters. So in the very worst case scenario where Hunter x Hunter never continues, I imagine that those would probably be released someday, and we might receive a bit of closure as to where the series was heading. And 10 isn't a lot, but it also kind of is. With the amount of dialogue and plot that Togashi has just crammed into the Succession War, 10 chapters could actually go an awfully long way. And something we do need to quite legitimately take into consideration now though is age. When we were discussing this hiatus 3 years ago as it first began, age was not a primary concern. However, Togashi is now 55 years old, which for a mangaka who has been drawing their entire professional career is well and truly hitting that retirement zone. Sure, you do have some seemingly immortal authors like say Hirohiko Araki, who is 61 years old and still planning to continue JoJo's Bizarre Adventure because what a boss. But most authors aren't quite as durable as him. To compare things further, the author of One Piece, Eiichiro Oda, is only 47. Quite the comparative spring chicken, so it's much easier to see One Piece continuing for another 5 to 7 years. Hunter x Hunter though, even if it does come off hiatus, Togashi will be in his late 50s and with back conditions, it's just not a great combination. And I think that might lead to the question of, would you like to see a continuation of Hunter x Hunter that has no Togashi involvement at all? I didn't do a poll on this, but I feel like the answer would be much more negative. Almost like the Kentaro Miura situation where it's probably for the best just to leave Berserk alone, rather than risk ruining it. But when it comes to Hunter x Hunter, my thoughts are more along the lines of side stories, like say the Hisoka one-shot chapter by Sui Ishida, which fun fact, started as an April Fool's joke. But the response was so overwhelmingly positive that Shueisha made it happen for real. Because that's how ravenous Hunter x Hunter fans are for any kind of content. So why not give other mangaka some space to create stories in this world? I think that would be fun. In terms of animated projects, there's obviously not much that can be done without a solid chunk of story to animate. However, there is always hope for a project surrounding the Hisoka vs. Chrollo fight. It's a condensed independent story that could easily be told over a miniseries or even a one-shot OVA. And I am perpetually shocked that nothing like this has been done yet because it's practically a license to print money. Fans would go absolutely insane for something like that. And by the time we do get around to maybe animating it in an actual anime series, if that ever happens, the OVA will be so old that a remake will be warranted. But as for the most important question, I asked all of you whether you think Hunter x Hunter will return in 2022. And the results are, as expected, less than hopeful. With over 80% of voters saying no, it won't return, and 30% throwing their lot in with the idea that Hunter x Hunter will never return, period. So it's definitely an uphill battle at the moment, but good on that 16% for retaining some kind of optimism. And as for this channel, we will continue making Hunter x Hunter stuff as long as you want to watch it. As crazy as it is, I feel like I still make new discoveries every time I go back on the series, and somehow there is always more to talk about. So even if Hunter x Hunter itself remains vacant for 2022, we will remain to provide that fix. Starting with this next video because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.